Hitohito Tadano is a freshman at Itan Private High School whose only goal for his first day at school was to analyze his surroundings and not to stand out. Tadano was an average dude, and the only thing he was confident about was his ability to read the room. On the first day at school, Tadano comes across an absolute beauty, and as he tries to have a word with her, the girl gives Tadano a menacing look and he almost craps himself. Moments later, Tadano found out that he was supposed to sit right next to the same girl in class, and he unintentionally ended up becoming the arch nemesis of every single person in the class. The cute girl's name was Komi Shoko, and in class, whenever Tadano tried to come close to her, bro received literal death threats. The class goes on, and randomly, Tadano wakes up and finds himself alone with Komi. Komi was playing with a cat when Tadano made her run away. To save his school life, Tadano randomly makes a guess and asks Komi if she is not good at communicating. Tadano was right on the money, as Komi started trembling while trying to answer him. Tadano suggests that Komi use the board to communicate, and that makes her feel comfortable enough to share her thoughts. Komi reveals that she gets so nervous around people that her voice just doesn't come out, and that makes Tadano empathetic of things that Komi must have to go through on a daily basis. Komi was leaving the class after a basic conversation, but Tadano joined in on the writing, and that way he helped Komi have her very first real conversation. Komi writes down how her dream is to make 100 friends, and even though she was worried that Tadano would find this weird, he makes her extremely happy by telling her that he would help her find the other 99. Komi's school life got a really good start as she made a friend on her first day at school. Tadano was feeling like making friends should be no problem for Komi since she is so cute, but what he failed to take into consideration was the fact that Itan Private High School takes students in through an interview, which meant that this place will be filled with all types of weirdos a human could think of. Tadano gets to work right away, and he figures that just walking up to the people and telling them about Komi's wish to make friends would be enough. Bro couldn't have been more wrong, as when he tries to approach some of his classmates, they quickly remind him of his social position. Tadano now understands just how hard it would be for him to help Komi, so he switches his attention to someone he already knew. This person was Tadano's old friend Osana Najimi, and even though Tadano remembered Najimi as a guy, now he was claiming that he can be both a guy and a girl. Najimi had switched schools a bit too much, and that made Najimi the childhood friend of absolutely everyone at school. Najimi's personality was just perfect to get along with others, so Tadano requests him to befriend Komi, but Najimi says no and leaves Komi frozen from the shock. Najimi later tells Tadano how he had already tried befriending Komi a year ago, but from Najimi's perspective, Komi didn't seem to be interested. Tadano still encourages Najimi to give it a go, and after school, Najimi asks Komi to walk back with her. The atmosphere between them was at the pinnacle of awkwardness, and after a while of seeing Najimi struggle, Tadano kind of loses hope for the day. On the way, Najimi is approached by another childhood friend named Ma, and this tough guy was here to confess his love to Najimi. Ma was drooling over his fantasies when Komi tries to speak to him, and even though she just wanted to return Ma's keys back to him, her unblinking stare scares the guy to death. Ma runs away after being certain that Komi is a murderer or something, but Najimi found this interaction hilarious, and Komi succeeded in making a second friend. In school, Najimi joined Komi and Tadano to eat during lunch break, and while Najimi was just having fun, Tadano's haters continued to grow. Najimi comes to know that Komi's dream was to make 100 friends, and for her training, Najimi tells Komi to get an extremely complicated coffee. Najimi was enjoying this quite a lot, but at the coffee shop, the same couldn't be said about Komi. Komi's best bet was to point at the coffee on the shop's menu, but as that variant wasn't on there, she starts to tremble. The guy at the counter puts something together for her regardless, but after finding out that this wasn't the coffee Najimi wanted, Komi starts to cry, and the other two had to apologize to her. When deciding on Komi's new friend, Najimi recommends a girl from their class named Himiko Agari. Najimi had come up with a list of students other than Komi who were suffering from social anxiety as well, and after hearing more about Agari, Komi feels a sense of kinship. Komi attempts to go and talk to Agari, but she continues to scare her off throughout recess. Komi's terror forced Agari to actually speak what was on her mind for the very first time, and she even thanked Komi for staring at her afterwards. Tadano finds the moment fitting to wingman Komi, and he tells Agari to become friends with her. Agari remarks how she doesn't find herself worthy of being Komi's friend, so she does what any sane person would do, and of course, instead, becomes Komi's lapdog. Komi was finally able to get a phone as well, and now she gets on the mission of securing her friends' numbers. Komi volunteers to go and ask Najimi herself this time, but she leaves Najimi a little terrified, walking forward with that stare in her flip phone. Komi was finally able to get a phone as well, and now she gets on the mission of securing her friends' numbers. Komi volunteers to go and ask Najimi herself this time, but she leaves Najimi a little terrified, walking forward with that stare in her flip phone. After getting Najimi's number, Komi goes ahead to ask Agari about hers as well, but Agari instantly switches into lapdog mode and makes Komi give up. Komi tries to get Tadano's number next, but things get a bit awkward between them, courtesy of Agari ruining the moment. The homeroom teacher demands the class nominate their class president, and inevitably, everyone votes for Komi. Tadano knew that Komi didn't want to take on the role, but before he could have interfered, Najimi took the bullet. Najimi was getting death threats too, but with a slick move, Najimi convinced the class to promote Komi to the higher rank of the class goddess. The position of president was still vacant, so all the students ended up forcing Tadano into it. In a couple of days, Komi had secured around 6 numbers, including her family's, and in excitement, she started practicing phone calls back at home. Komi calls Tadano by mistake, and she even talks a little bit this time around, making both her and Tadano extremely happy with the progress. In school, some kids were playing popular games, and Komi wanted to join them. Najimi invites her to play the game, and while it made the others really happy, seeing Tadano join her really bothered them. The game was simple, and even though Komi didn't get any of the rules, others just let her win. For the next round, it is mutually decided that the loser will make a kissy face. Everyone wanted to see Komi's kissy face really badly, so they took advantage of Komi's not knowing the rules and continued to win one by one. It comes down to Tadano at the end, but despite having the urge to see that face, Tadano sabotages the game and makes himself even more hated in order to save Komi. Tadano wasn't feeling well after the game, but as Komi thanked him for helping her have fun, he started feeling really happy. The physical exams arrive, and while everyone else was love-struck by Komi's adorable attempts at those exams, a girl named Makeru Yadano had a completely different take. Yadano kind of had a superiority complex, and to satisfy this dark side of herself, she wanted to beat Komi at this exam and reign superior. Yadano starts beefing up with Komi without her knowing, but she ends up losing to Komi as Komi was taller, had better eyesight, and weighed less. Despite Komi being better than her in every single scenario, Yadano still convinced herself that the exams were rigged and that she was better just to cope with reality. On another day, Tadano was on his way to school, acknowledging that the only good thing about his ordinary self is that Komi is his friend when he gets kidnapped on the way. Instead of Tadano, the focus shifts to another girl from Komi's class named Ren Yamai. On paper, Yamai was just a normal high schooler, but deep inside her heart, she had a huge crush on Komi. Yamai was crazy for Komi, to the point that she would even secure every strand of her broken hair that she could find. Yikes. In order to get one step closer to Komi, Yamai decides to say hello to her, but in her way, first stands Agari and later Najimi. Yamai did scare Agari away with that demonic look on her face, but as Najimi wouldn't just shut up even after she was trying to talk to Komi, Yamai drags Najimi into a corner and blackmails him into introducing her to Komi. Yamai did scare Agari away with that demonic look on her face, but as Najimi wouldn't just shut up even after she was trying to talk to Komi, Yamai drags Najimi into a corner and blackmails him into introducing her to Komi. Najimi does exactly as she is told, and Yamai starts hanging around with Komi. After noticing that Yamai was on Tadano's desk during lunch break, both Komi and Najimi realized that their translator guy was absent today, and that was a big problem because without him, Najimi wasn't able to understand half of the things Komi was trying to say. While Komi was panicking in school, Tadano woke up tied up in Yamai's room, worried sick about his life. At school, Najimi asks if she and Komi can visit Yamai's place, and she agrees while constantly thinking about ways to hide Tadano from them. Yamai puts Tadano in her closet before letting the other two in, and she threatens him into shutting up if he cares for his life. Tadano makes some noises regardless, and Najimi opens the closet to find the boy tied up inside. At first, Najimi assumed that this was some sort of kink Tadano had, but Yamai openly accepts that she was the one who did this to keep Tadano away from being in Komi's majestic presence. Yamai goes on about how she is more suitable to be Komi's friend than someone ordinary like Tadano, but Komi unties Tadano and prefers to leave, dropping the mic and telling Yamai that she chooses her own friends. The next day at school, Komi had a weird aura around her that worried Tadano, but later she took him outside the class to have a private word. Komi apologizes to Tadano for what he had to go through because of her, and she seems to be unsure if she was worthy of being Tadano's friend or not. Tadano tells Komi how he chooses his friends too, and while blushing, Komi speaks out loud with him for the very first time. While these two were still busy, Najimi pulls up on them and brings Yamai alongside so she can apologize. Yamai's apology was kind of confusing, and after witnessing that Komi still wouldn't talk to her, Yamai prepares herself to end it all. Yamai didn't know about the anxiety thing Komi had, and she is left in shock after the others tell her about it. Yamai finds Komi's dream of 100 friends quite cute, and she even succeeds in becoming friends with Komi without any of that scary crap this time. The summer season arrives, and alongside it, people gather around the school just to see Komi in her school uniform. Somehow, Komi looked even more beautiful in this uniform, and while she already found it odd, Tadano also had a hard time explaining the whole thing to her. Later, the class is taken to the school gym for another fitness test where we meet Yadano again, as she was ready to challenge her rival Komi for that spot at the top of the hierarchy. Yadano was eager to completely dominate Komi this time, but one after another, she continues to lose in different challenges. The score came down to 7-0, and a sprint was Yadano's last chance at saving her honor from a total defeat. Like always, Yadano tried to give it her all, but her small legs were just no match for Komi's long and delicate ones. Yadano lost this one too, but in the end, she felt like everything happened for the best. Yadano goes on over to shake Komi's hand, and while Komi is still processing what this weirdo is doing, Yadano leaves, promising to give Komi a better challenge for that position at the top next time around. After the physical exam was done and school for the day came to an end, Komi and her friends were hanging out around the shoe lockers when Najimi randomly requested to visit her place. Komi gets conflicted by her emotions, but she nods yes and tells the other two to come along. At Komi's residence, Tadano and Najimi met Komi's mom, Shuko, and while her age was already confusing enough, she starts acting a little too cheerful and blows both Najimi and Tadano's minds. The three move to Komi's room afterwards, and they choose to avoid talking about Komi's mom at all costs. While they were hanging out, Najimi intentionally left the other two alone, hoping to see some romantic development. But in the end, the next 15 minutes of waiting only brought him disappointment. Najimi asks to check out Komi's photo album later on, and after these two say goodbye to Komi, at night, Najimi sends Komi a picture of today's visit that Komi liked enough to get it framed later down the line. Next up, in school, Komi randomly gets the urge to eat some ramen, and while she was telling how this is one of her dreams, the ramen master Agari steps up and takes the lead. Agari takes the others to a place named Ramen Daro, and this restaurant turns out to be perfect for Komi as it had some unspoken rules. Without even trying, Komi fits right in, and she was so elegant even while eating food that both Tadano and Najimi kinda ruined their ramen while focusing on her. In the end, Komi looked forward to some time coming to this place once again, but I'm not sure if the same could be said about Najimi and Tadano after looking at their condition. Another interesting event happened to Komi at school while she was hanging out with her friends during leisure. A weird character comes into class looking for Komi, and she gets all hyped around her, claiming that Komi is her princess Komilia. This girl with an eye patch was kind of delusional, and her name was Nanaka. Komi almost believes in whatever she was saying, and the moment brings Najimi some nostalgia. Despite Tadano's opposition, Najimi reveals a story about this time in middle school. Apparently, this guy used to be delusional just like Nanaka, and when he had a crush on a girl at school, he chose to show his feelings by literally painting love all over the whole running track. Tadano was turned down by that girl, claiming that it was cringe, and that was the moment that made this guy the ordinary Tadano we all know today. In Komi's next gym class, the students are told to divide into pairs of 2, and naturally everyone wants to be with Komi. Nanaka was one of them, but she lost hope due to her unpopularity. Nanaka was just a normal girl as well, who used her delusion as a coping mechanism, and while she was sulking at the side, Komi approached her and made her really happy by volunteering to be her partner when no one else would. On a usual morning, after coming to school, Komi randomly starts attempting to tell jokes to Tadano. Komi had heard last night that humor is necessary for interesting conversations, and she just wanted to implement some in her speech as well. Komi tries to tell Tadano a few that she wrote down, but her horrible comedic timing and bland situational humor kind of make her bad dad's joke even worse. Tadano considers telling her about how bad she is at jokes when Najimi arrives and asks Tadano to show Komi how it's done. Bro gets put on the spot, and it turns out that he was equally as bad as Komi with his jokes. He still impressed Komi in the end, so I guess it was all good. Later on, Najimi was asking Komi about where she goes shopping when she reveals that she's never gone to buy clothes herself as she finds it scary. Naturally, Najimi tells her to come shopping after school, and by the time they reach the mall, all of Komi's friends join them. Komi had no fashion sense, so the others chose to pick a few dresses for her, deciding to later vote on the best one. While waiting, Komi continuously gets mistaken for being a mannequin, but after a while, she finally starts trying the dresses out. In the end, Komi chooses to buy the one Tadano picked, and even though she was scared of going shopping before, the visit to the mall with her friends seemingly changed her mind for the better, helping her a lot with that communication disorder of hers. And that brings us to the end of today's recap. Thanks for sticking till the end, and let us know in the comments if you guys want a second part of the series. Don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.